Hi, everybody. This is Lee. And a few weeks ago, I did a video in response to a press release by the Missouri Green Party. It was about the closing of a homeless shelter in St. Louis. They wanted to get people to assist them with providing support to that homeless shelter because temperatures are reaching the freezing point in Missouri right about now. This is a follow-up to that video, which also included tips from online resources for if you are homeless, how best to cope. Some people might wonder why would that be online available to a homeless person? Many people who are homeless still use computers at the library or they have their own devices. They have phones or notebooks, things like that, and they use them to find work, stay in touch with their families, things like that, communicate with each other. So many are online, it's just they are unhoused. And so people have made guides for how best to cope with that situation. This is a follow up. That was the Green Party that released that press release. This new article is at Counterpunch. It's December 27th. Attack on St. Louis homeless sneaks under a dark cloud. And so apparently, about 24 people answered the Green Party's call to picket the mayor of St. Louis for his efforts to close down New Life Evangelistic Center, the city's homeless shelter of the last resort. And this is where people go who absolutely do not have anywhere else to go, like perhaps other homeless shelters cannot or will not accept them. And so they come to this homeless shelter. Otherwise, they are forced to sleep outside in the cold. And so it turns out that it's a bipartisan attack on the poorest of the poor. The efforts to shut down this New Life homeless shelter are led by Francis Slay, and this is the Democratic Party mayor. This is the same mayor who's championed charter schools over public ones. This is the mayor who stymied efforts to create a civilian oversight board for police violence. However, this is the same mayor who always finds or seems to find millions of dollars to build sports stadiums, while funding for homeless shelters just is never adequate or available. And so apparently what has created this new crisis, because the homeless shelter has actually been operational since 1976, but the neighborhood in which the homeless shelter is in has gentrified. The neighborhood has changed from what it used to be, and the property values surrounding the homeless shelter have gone up as people have moved in. And so, in order to realize the full extent of those investments, the downtown landowners have sought out friendly politicians to do something about the homeless shelter in their midst. And the homeless shelter was there first, but money talks. And so this is what's going on. The homeless shelter has an attorney trying to keep it open, but they're being attacked at the local level. For instance, the St. Louis Building Commission has sent a cease and desist order. They're kind of making things really uncomfortable. They're also raising up zoning codes and various kinds of legal offenses. The homeless shelter must shut down because it does not comply with codes for building permits. The homeless shelter is responsible for a wave of K2, which is synthetic marijuana overdoses. And the homeless shelter can easily be eliminated because other shelters are able to handle all the area homeless. And these are not necessarily true, but that's what the propaganda that's being put out by the media is all the positive that about the homeless shelter that used to be in the news that has been eliminated apparently. And now the news is full of negative stories about this homeless shelter attempting to turn the local population against the homeless. And so the allegations are kind of problematic. Um, and the fact that they're kind of smearing the homeless shelter in a way in order to turn the public against it. It's just a type of smearing that we've seen in various efforts of activism this year, including the Standing Rock, the indigenous population that stood up to the black snake in North Dakota. So I'm going to leave a link to the full article in the description. The fact that there's going to be an election in St. Louis, April 2017. There's going to be an election to replace the outgoing mayor who was hostile to the homeless shelter. That's Francis Slay. The Democratic Party aldersperson Lydia Crewson is favored by the downtown investors to become the new mayor because apparently she's friendly to the investors and she will take the side of the investors against a homeless shelter. And this is the importance of local politics. All politics is local. People want to protest the inauguration, and if you're able or you want to, then of course you should. But there's something happening locally all around the United States. In St. Louis, this homeless shelter, things are going to be happening at the local level depending on who becomes the mayor, whether the homeless, the poorest of the poor, will be able to come in out of the cold. And so there is actually a Green Party mayoral candidate. His name is Jonathan McFarland. Jonathan McFarland believes that the New Life shelter must be kept open because it is the only shelter in St. Louis which takes in homeless people in truly desperate situations. It is obviously needed because so many people come there. They have about a 200 person capacity. And so what this article is concluding is that the Trump administration, the Republican Party, they seem more blatant in their rhetoric, but the slick wordsmithing of the Democratic Party often disguises their true intentions of doing similar things as the Republican Party in attacking the poor. And so, in general, homelessness around the United States is an issue. The fact of housing being so high, wages being so low, one crisis after another, and then what do you know? Bad things happen, and it could be anyone. And so it's good to pay attention to local politics and to never lose sight of how hostile the economy can be to the poorest of the poor. Good luck.